dispute between Trump and Lewis is, of course, the issue of Russia. The reason the congressman says he can't support the new president is that he believes Russia helped get Trump elected. And with Congress now poised to investigate possible or alleged contacts between the campaign and the Kremlin, ABC's Alex Marquardt has just arrived in Moscow. Alex, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan. The Russians are watching this change in administrations very carefully and are making it clear they want a new relationship with the U.S. The latest move from the Russian side is to invite the U.S. to talks this month on Syria, talks that the Obama administration had been frozen out of. That invitation extended by Russia's ambassador to Trump's incoming National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn on the same day that the Obama administration kicked out 35 Russian diplomats for the alleged cyber attacks and meddling in the election. Now, a major goal for the Kremlin is to get the sanctions lifted that the Obama administration has imposed. In a recent interview, Trump said those sanctions would remain in place for a period of time, but could be lifted if the two countries work together well on terrorism and other issues. Russia has, of course, denied that they spied on Trump during past visits here. One official here calling it a complete break from reality. The big question now, when will Putin and Trump have their first meeting? Reports that could happen during Trump's first foreign trip in Iceland have been shot down, but both sides have shown a willingness to get together once Trump becomes president. Dan, Paula.
All right, Alex, we want to thank you for that report this morning. We want to bring in ABC News chief anchor George Stephanopoulos, who will be hosting This Week later this morning. And George, we're going to talk about Russia in just a second, but let's go back to Congressman Lewis. And Trump's apologists and defenders are basically saying that Lewis started this because he questioned Trump's legitimacy. Is that fair?
Well, it's true. I mean, and a lot of Democrats are saying, is it really smart to question legitimacy, to do what Republicans have done in the past, like Donald Trump when he questioned legitimacy of Barack Obama? The other question, though, is, was it proportionate, factual, and wise, Trump's response? And on those three grounds, I think it falls short. He wasn't right about the district. He wasn't right about John Lewis's history. And as Koki pointed out in the earlier piece, this is a point in time now where Donald Trump needs to be reaching out to those who opposed him.
But during the campaign, this is a guy who tangled with a Gold Star family, with the war hero John McCain, with a prominent judge of Mexican extraction.
And he won.
And he won, nonetheless. So is there any reason to think that this one will be any different?
Well, the question is, what does he want to do as president? And will he have the power to do that? Look at the polling for Donald Trump coming in to this inauguration just 5 days away. He's got basically a 44% approval rating. That's 40 points below where Barack Obama was 8 years ago. It's even below, almost 20 points below, where George W. Bush was coming out of a contested election. And a president who's unpopular isn't powerless by any means, but he's going to need more support than he has right now to get his agenda through.
He does have both houses of Congress.
I want to go back to Russia now, because we can't forget that, John Lewis's argument for all of this, that questioning the legitimacy of Trump's presidency was because of Russia's interference in the election. But diplomatically, what does America have to gain by improving those relations with Russia?
Well, you want better relations. The question is on what terms? And, you had Donald Trump telling the Wall Street Journal this week that he would think about lifting sanctions in the future, depending on what Russia did. This is very much at odds with what his own nominees were saying on Capitol Hill this week. You had General Mattis, who's his nominee for defense secretary, saying Russia's the #1 strategic threat. He wants a strategy to confront Russia. You had Rex Tillerson for Secretary of State saying this is not the time to talk about lifting sanctions. Mike Pompeo, nominee for CIA, says Russia is the #1 threat and is doing nothing to help us with ISIS. So there's a pretty big gulf there between what Donald Trump is saying and what his nominees are saying.
And yet he encourages that respectful dissent.
Yeah, but something pretty remarkable this week we also learned in the hearings. Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State nominee, says he has not discussed Russia with Donald Trump.
Interesting, very interesting. George, we're going to let you go because we know you have a huge show coming up this morning. He's going to talk with incoming White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus and Senator Bernie Sanders. It's all coming up later this morning on This Week. And George, we'll be heading up our team for live all-day coverage of the inauguration this Friday, January 20th. Our coverage begins at 7 a.m. Eastern. Dan?